everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm DIY Danie. I am so excited to share this episode with you all because I have been busy creating 4 different types of textured abstract art that you can create in your home. And each one is so simple to create. You guys are gonna laugh and I hope you feel inspired. So I'm not gonna blab very long. Let's just jump into this episode. Roll the tape. But also, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn the bell notification on so that you never miss an episode of DIY Danie. Okay, let's do it. Boop. First up, I'm making this DIY minimalistic abstract art that is the perfect piece to add interest and texture to your space in a very minimal looking way. I'm kind of obsessed with it, not gonna lie. The paper I'm using in this project is a thick watercolor paper. This was an 18 by 24 sheet that I'm gonna be cutting in half. I actually wanna give more of a ripped look on the sides, so I'm just using my straight edge to create a line, just pressing that down, and I'm gonna fold this up really quickly, and I'm gonna just use it as my rip guide. Oh yeah, that one ripped quite nicely. But if you're not a rip textured kind of person, go ahead and just leave it as is. So now that my watercolor paper is ready to go, I'm actually going to be placing this into a big tub full of water, and I'm going to let that soak. We're gonna leave this in here for 30 minutes. While that's soaking, I'm taping down the size of my canvas onto this paper. This is gonna help guide me when I'm creating the abstract pieces that are going to create the shape of this art piece. Please don't let the dog drink out of that water. Now I'm taking some cardboard. This is very simple cardboard. I literally took it out of the recycling bin from last night's dinner. This is like the perfect cardboard for me right now. It's a good thickness and it'll create a nice line. And what I want to start to do is kind of create some fun shapes that we're gonna cut out. One that'll kind of dip down to the side, come up, and then come down. So using a pencil, I'm drawing some abstract shapes onto my cardboard pieces. There's no rhyme or reason to this. What shapes you create is really up to you. I'm playing with a lot of different arched shapes, which I really enjoy for a piece like this. Now I'm just taking a precision cutter and another straight edge, and I'm gonna just start to carefully cut out my pieces. Well, that's a pretty good shape right there. That's a pretty good shape too. I'm gonna keep up. So now I kind of have to decide what I want my art to look like. I kind of like this corner piece. I think that's kind of cool to create some kind of wave over there. I like this piece coming down, this here. Actually, I kind of like this piece here. This corner piece could be here. Maybe this corner is stronger. Give it some dimension. Yeah, I kind of don't hate that. I'm gluing these down using a glue gun. Don't need a lot. I just need enough to kind of hold it all down in place. I like this process because this is a chance for you to really make it your own. There's gonna be no abstract piece alike out there. Have fun with different shapes or styles. It doesn't need to be abstract. You can create flowers or your name, or you can do a cool logo. Just have fun and make it your own. Okay, so 30 minutes are up and I'm pulling my wet watercolor paper out. And just to make sure it's not dripping and sopping wet, I'm just dabbing it a little bit with a towel. Bringing my abstract art piece back in here, I'm going to lay it on top of my design, and I'm actually just going to start to carefully push the paper into my design where all of my abstract shapes are lifted. As you can see, you're gonna start to see the outline come forward on the watercolor paper. It's really cool. I've seen people use a bone folder tool for this, but honestly, I found it just as easy to use my finger to really press it in. You need to be careful though, don't rub too hard because the watercolor paper is very delicate when it's wet and it can start to flake. You wanna let the cardboard guide your finger. You generally know the shape, so just carefully push it down. You can use any tool to help with this. I'm using a clay wood sculpting tool. It just kind of helps really get into the line. That's looking really cool. I'm starting to really see a good outline of the whole piece. And then once you have your shape that you like, you just need to let that sit and completely dry. I think we have a winner here, guys. So full transparency, I actually ended up redoing this because like I warned you about the flakiness, I went a little too hard with my finger and I ended up flaking it. So that art piece was a flake. But I'm not gonna lie to you, so I did end up redoing it, being very careful the second time, and I just love the way it turned out. Look how cool that looks. And then to hang this piece, I'm putting it in between a wooden magnetic hanger. You can find these all over Amazon. I will link this one in the description box for you. And that's it! How easy was that? Talk about minimal effort for a minimal look. It's super beautiful. I love how subtle the lines are, but then the light will catch it in the right spot and all the different shapes really become so pronounced. I think a whole wall full of these would look so beautiful. And the best part about this, you can create any shape underneath, create a rainbow, a name, a logo. It is totally yours to personalize and have fun. Moving on to our next art piece. This is the DIY Spackle Textured Art. And yes, I'm saying spackle because I can't say spackle normally, okay? It's just one of those words that you have to say it like spackle. It just has to be said that way, okay? To create our DIY textured spackle art, I'm starting with a regular canvas. The next tool I have is a palette knife or scraper, depending on who you ask. Each one is kind of gonna give a unique look depending on how you wield the tool. And then two unconventional tools that I want to play with. This comb. I figured this part here would be perfect to create some fun little texture. And then this like stir stick. It says Merry Mississippi Christmas. I have no idea where I got these, but I think would be a fun tool to use to scrape some of this putty. Getting started on my Spackle Textured Art, I'm using spackle. This is something a lot of you are going to have in your house already, which is what I love about this. Normally spackle is used to fill in holes that you've created from other beautiful pieces of artwork or anything that you've hung. Definitely have covered our canvas now pretty well, but it would be fun to kind of play with the different tools and see what kind of look they give. So really simply, I am just moving around the spackle all over the canvas, creating fun shapes, using different tools to create different looks. I like this little paddle. Oh, I broke it. Bummer. The thicker you lay it on, the more textured it ends up looking, but what I love about this is that you really can't mess it up. It's a no stress art piece. You just have fun, play, move around the spackle, and then once you're happy with the way it looks, just let it dry. I think I might just call it. So this piece needed about 6 hours to completely harden, and here is the final piece. This basically took all day to dry. You'll know that it's dry when you touch it. Just to make sure that this is protected, I am going to be spraying this with a clear coat. I've read the instructions. I don't see why it wouldn't work to this material. This was a bit of a gamble because it could either turn the spackle yellow or it would be great. And of course, with my luck, it did in fact turn yellow. My fear did come true, but I was able to salvage it. All I did was just take it outside and I sprayed the whole thing with a white spray paint to make it nice and crisp. Look yellow anywhere?
Looks pretty white.
The clear coat did actually create a really nice hardened top coat, so I don't actually think that this was bad. All I'm saying is I think it's actually a good idea to maybe spray paint it or give it some kind of top coat. If you want to keep it really protected, you could do the clear coat knowing it's going to turn a little bit yellow and then spray paint a cool color on top. How cool is this spackled art? It might just be the easiest art piece I've ever made. Minimal effort with such a rewarding result. Basically, it makes you look like a cool professional artist without actually doing cool professional things. Of course, against a white wall, I knew it needed some kind of frame to really make it pop, so I created this natural 1x2 frame that was so easy to make and just made the whole piece really come together. Be your own professional artist and make your own spackled artwork. Moving Moving on to my DIY Topographical Abstract Art. I love this piece because it's so unique with its lifted element. There's such freedom to explore different colors, patterns, shapes, and meaning within each design you create. It really is a simple abstract art piece. This art piece is going to be built on a 16 by 20 white art canvas. Putting that aside for a moment, I'm using a mixed media paper to create my abstract shapes. I actually created like a small little doodle of what I wanted this art piece to ultimately look like. So what I need to do is start creating all of the layers that are going to make up this art piece. So first I was tracing out my canvas onto my white paper. This was going to help guide me to make sure that the pieces that I'm making will fit on top of my canvas. Following my sketched version, I just started to create all the pieces using pencil and cutting them out with scissors. That's one piece. Even seeing this in a raw form was kind of a really cool effect. And if you wanted to go kind of in more of a minimal way, I think this would totally work that way too. If we follow this to this, you kind of start to see it a little. The next step is to paint all of our pieces and then we can start to put it together. Again, following my little tiny guide, I picked all the colors out and then using acrylic paints, I started to create the look. I wanted it to be grays and blacks, but I didn't want it to be like a gray. Kind of wanted it to be like DeLorean gray, you know, from like Back in the Future. So we got like DeLorean gray 1 and then DeLorean gray 2, which is like a lighter version of this. And then we have black. The black exploded. That's why it looks like a splatter. So going in with my black, nothing to it. I like big brushes because I find that they leave a nice brush stroke, which is definitely something I am going for. Like you can see the brush strokes on it, and that is a look that I want for this piece. Okay, so I have all of the other pieces set up here. My goal is to paint all of these this color and then decide on a few bottom pieces that I'm gonna do lighter. I know that sounds crazy, but just trust. Okay, so it is a new day and I wanted to show you guys the canvas before I started. Last night at 12 o'clock I had an epiphany that I wanted to paint this the same DeLorean gray, which I did underneath, but then I woke up this morning and realized no, it needs to be white, but thought it would be kind of cool to kind of give it like a very unfinished look. So I actually painted white over top of it. Kind of helps give the canvas a little extra texture. I thought it was kind of cool, so I didn't actually finish it. Also this morning, I did end up painting a couple pieces white, so when I put this together I'm going to show you which ones ended up being white. So using my picture guide, I'm going to start to build out the pieces. So this goes here and here and here. You can see the white actually contrasts nicely against the two gray tones, so that's why I went with the white. And then we have a black piece in the corner. These two pieces, the dark and then the lighter on top. This piece here, this piece that sits on top of this, these three pieces here, and then that sits on top. That sits on top of this white piece. This one up here, and this black piece will go here. It's kind of like a little puzzle, isn't it? Now that you've seen the whole thing, I want to start gluing each piece layer by layer. To secure all of my loose abstract pieces onto my board, I'm creating a PVA glue. I feel like I'm from Art Attack. Oh, PVA glue, it's 1 pot water, 2 pot glue. I used to love that. I used to go around my house saying 1 pot water, 2 pot glue, PVA glue. Glue. Once I had my mix all ready to go, I simply used a brush and I applied it onto the canvas and on the back of each piece. And working on the bottom layers, I simply just started to attach all pieces, holding it down with my hands. Because of the cardboard nature of the paper, it naturally just kind of wanted to flip up. You need to get the entire piece a little bit damp so that it kind of calms the paper down and really helps it secure to the canvas. And then once all my pieces were secured, layered, I'm taking that glue and I'm just splashing it all over. Do not worry, it looks messy right now, but this glue will dry clear and it's gonna create a nice top coat for your entire art piece. And then simply just let that dry for 24 hours. If you need to apply a little bit more glue in certain sections, feel free to, but if you apply a thick enough coat the first time, you should be good to go. And just like that, I had a cool DIY topographical art piece. I mean, how cool does this look? Again, I created a cool frame for my art piece. This was just some wood I had in my garage, and for this one, I painted it black. I find the black frame helped define the art piece on the wall and really made that topographical element pop. It's certainly an interesting art piece that creates conversation and dimension to any space. Make it monochromatic, make it colorful, have fun with it because there's so many different places you could go with this. I hope it inspires you all to try your own topographical art piece. Last but not least, we're moving on to our DIY layered watercolor paper art. I love this piece so much. It's so fun and colorful and playful. So to start off, I'm using a 18x24 mixed media sheet as my canvas. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to create what my palette's going to be on a separate sheet of paper. I'm going to add a dark purple on the top. I love this color. I always think it's a good idea to decide what your color palette is going to be ahead of time. This is kind of like a fuchsia. I really like this pink. This one's a little bit more of a deeper red. You can really see what colors work well together if you put it on paper first. It's like creating a mood board for your art piece. So it'll be my guide as I move forward. Now that I have my color palette picked out, I can start creating my paper pieces. Although it looks very similar to the other 18x24 sheet, this is a watercolor sheet. We're gonna create some rips in this paper. I like using watercolor sheets for this. It just has a different texture than the mixed media. The idea here is to kind of create some cool abstract shapes, but for this one, instead of cutting clean lines, I'm creating more of a ripped edge. I think that is what we want. There is a reason to this ripped edge, but the more ripped it looked, the better. Once I had my entire piece kind of laid out and I liked the layering, it was time to pick my colors. So bringing back that color legend, I was able to refer to this to help pick which pieces were gonna be what color. Once I had a good idea, basically I just had to paint them. As you can see in the ripped parts, it really takes the color nicely. It comes a little bit darker, which creates a really cool textured look for the piece like this. And that's what I was looking for. It's a lot easier to spread the color if you wet the canvas first. So I'm applying water all over it and then just applying the colors on top. And then all you have to do is just paint all your pieces until you're done. Once your pieces are fully dry, how cool does this look? I kind of love the way that it looks with just the paper kind of lying on top of each other. But seeing it like this did inspire me to want to create a more ruffled look, a little bit more imperfect. So I'm taking my glue gun and we're gonna glue each piece in like 3 separate spaces, just kind of leaving some of the edges facing upward. I'm being very careful not to glue down the edges because I wanted to kind of have that lifted, ruffled look. Don't worry if the pieces are falling off the canvas. We're gonna fix that later. Right now, it's just about getting all the pieces secured to your canvas. And I'm gonna turn it over, taking my giant straight edge, and then I'm gonna take my rotary cutter. Sorry for the top of my head. Ta-da! Ta-da-da-da! Now that all of our edges are cut, we're gonna create a little stand for it to hang off of. So using a 1/4 inch dowel, you can find this dowel at any craft store. It's very lightweight and it's very easy to work with. I'm just cutting it using a utility knife. Then simply using my glue gun, I'm just gluing the first dowel onto the front and then I'm gonna secure the second dowel onto the back. I decided to pick a fun colored string to hang this. This is an aqua blue and I thought it would create a really nice contrast to the pink. And there we go. Just like that, a beautiful, ruffled, layered watercolor paper art. This project was so much fun to DIY. I love art that lends itself to being more playful and, dare I say, a tad whimsical. I just really love all the pops of colors on this, but I also love how it could be created in so many different design styles and color choices. You could simply keep it minimal, you could go monochromatic, or be really playful with color. It's just so easy to make your own, and it's just so easy to translate in different spaces depending on who it's being made for. So I hope you do try it. So there you have it, 4 cool abstract art pieces you can put in your home. I love how simple they are, and I think that's the goal. Create simple pieces that can make your home just a little bit more beautiful and a little more DIY. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comment section below. I always have my favorite, but I'm always interested to know what you guys gravitate toward. It's always the opposite from me. So let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.